think the biggest thing that I'm going to be saying coming out of next Saturday, is Ohio State's offensive line just bullied Texas to a win. So, I think that's probably my number one takeaway.
Okay, pause the flipping game. Hold on. Dillon, are you trying to tell us something here, buddy?
What?
Are you trying to tell us something? Because the last time we talked about this game, you said you had bet Texas. You got a lot of grief for that. Hey, it's Juck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth. We're Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. Welcome to Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me. It's your friend Juck. It's your better friend Dillon. How we doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic. I mean, we are so close to the start of the season, man. I'm just so excited to be talking Buckeye football in the context of the season being here. So
yeah, bro, we got a little our whistle wet a little bit here. We had a little Farmageddon in Dublin, yeah. And we get a lot of talk about Ohio State and the field conditions. A lot of people angry about the field. Yeah. Looks dull. You got the slit film. At least they know how to paint the lines at Ohio Stadium, man, because I couldn't see a damn line in that game, man.
Yeah, it was brutal. And as somebody who bet on the game, I was also a little bit not too happy about that field and the conditions and the way that game played out, but that's neither here nor there.
Did you see the fight afterwards, man? Avery Johnson's dad and his brother. That's a rough look. Dad and bro fighting after the game.
Yeah, that's tough.
Poor kid, man. I'd be so embarrassed. But we got a lot to get to. Obviously, press conference today. This game we've been talking about all off season. We're 5 days away. I was talking to some friends about the game, and I am hearing this consistently as a refrain that, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter if you lose. And I was curious your stance on that from a couple of different angles, like both from the angle of regarding the playoffs and from the angle of, like, this is Texas. Like, these are two blue bloods going at it. This is SEC Big Ten. This to me feels as big as I don't know, maybe if this is a way for people to preemptively make it not feel as bad should Ohio State happen to lose. But I just can't get down with that, man. This to me it almost feels as big as the Cotton Bowl to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think make no mistake about it. There are two different ways, to look at it, or two different kind of, angles at this. Is this game as big as some of the other classic non-conference games that we've seen in Ohio Stadium or, Ohio State have in seasons past? No, by nature of just the fact that this is where we live in college football, where, it's not an end-all be-all. I remember going into the 95 Notre Dame game, walking into that stadium, and it was very obviously, even though I was still young, it was very obviously very different. And that game, was meant so much because at that time there wasn't even a BCS. That game very well could have been a national championship decider, and you go into the BCS years in some of those games as well, and still those games could have been national championship deciders. Is it like that? No, but I tell you, Ohio State and Texas still meeting in the Horseshoe, or if they were meeting in DKR, which they will next year, that's still such a massive, massive thing for college football. And it still means a ton for the playoffs. It still means a ton for the season. Like, it doesn't quite have the, end all be all, stakes that some games in the past have had, but it still means so much for the playoff picture. So, this is as big as it gets. And look, again, by nature, where we're at in college football and where we live in now, it's not quite as, massive, I guess, as it has been in years past if you had this kind of matchup. But to say that, I mean, it's still a massive game. It is. And regardless of what the stakes are and what's on the line and what it means and what it ultimately, will happen as a result of whatever happens in the Horseshoe next Saturday, when you get a chance to see Ohio State and Texas on the field anytime, especially in a home stadium, whether it's the Horseshoe or DKR, I mean, you savor that because this is a special. This is why we love the sport. This is truly why we love the sport, to see two programs like that meeting on the field in one of their home stadiums. So it's big in that sense. Again, is it as big as other, really big non-conference matchups in the past in terms of what Ohio State's had through the years? By way of stakes, no, it's just not. I mean, that's just, again, the nature of the world we live in. But this game is still massive, and just from a college football fan standpoint, like this is everything we love. So I'm as equally as excited about this as I've ever been about a game. So if that says anything.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I just like, and to your point, this is why I fell in love with college football. Yeah. It's games like this in the regular season that really are truly different. And they mean so much, and there's just so much more on the line in the way of bragging rights and everything else that goes along with college football that doesn't hit the same in the NFL. And I don't feel any different about that because the postseason changed. I really don't. I want to win this game so bad, and there will be, I feel like I'll get over a loss quicker than I would have in 2005.
Sure.
It's not going to linger quite as long as it did at that point. But this is everything, man. This is what it's all about. And regarding the playoffs, I was thinking about some scenarios. So should Ohio State lose this game, now you've got the Penn State game. And my gosh, man, with as good as they're looking, that game is so huge. And should you end up losing that, which just very well might be like a coin flip type of game like this one, and you don't have any slip-ups, you go into Michigan with everything on the line, which almost feels like, gosh, I kind of would love to experience that at the same time. But I just got over this feeling now that Ryan Day has gotten over, now that he's won a national championship, now that he's provided to his program the ultimate prize, that he's going to coach that game like he coaches any other game. But you put those stakes on top of it, and I don't know, it might revert back to the original.
Yeah, very true. Well, you make a good point there about, just if Ohio State were to lose the game and where your mind immediately goes to, you think back to 2005, and I was still young at the time, but, anybody, who as a Buckeye fan after that game, your mind immediately went to like, what's the path forward to still, winning a BCS national title? And, obviously it was still very early in the season, so things can happen. But at the end of the day, that early in the season, you immediately needed help, to go win a national title. And that was, both the beauty of the BCS system and also, the unfortunate, result of that system and losing a game that early. At the end of the day, if Ohio State loses next Saturday, our minds are immediately going to go to, okay, well, they should still be, well, they will be. They'll be favored in every game they play from there on out, in my opinion. So, so go handle your business and go play for a Big Ten championship and, see what happens in the playoffs, as far as how that seeding goes. So it's just different in that way. But
I just remember back then, like winning the Fiesta Bowl that year, it was like, obviously you wanted to win the national championship. It was pretty clear Texas was the best team that year. But you didn't end that season feeling like it was a total loss. Yeah. You won the Fiesta Bowl. Well, you won something, and it meant something. And it was just, it just felt like such the perfect system. And, I'm an anti-expansionist. I didn't want all this. We got it. Right. And it's been fun so far. Obviously, we've bagged a championship from it, so I'm not complaining. Yeah. But my biggest fear was that games like this, people would have the attitude that I'm starting to hear, and I just don't want it to infest, because I feel like the more that catches on, the more it becomes the talking point, and then it just becomes fact. And that's what I'm so scared of it. Well, anyway.
I totally agree with that. And frankly, what you're describing there is, I don't want to say the death of the sport, but it's the death of the sport in the way that at least I know for you and I, what we love, the sport that we love, and we'll still love college football and whatever it becomes. Obviously, it's just, it's part of our DNA. But what you're describing there is the death of the sport that we all fell in love with. And so that's, if it does ultimately come to pass, that's the result. That's unfortunate, very unfortunate. I have my worries that that's what we're heading towards, but what you just described right there, and that kind of approach to this kind of football game is everything that we're we're scared of in terms of the sport that we love dying. And I hate that might possibly be, be reality, but that's not the here nor there for now. The bottom line is Ohio State and Texas are going to kick off, in less than a week. And to have that game is such a special, special thing. And I hope everybody's excited about it, but forget about what it means down the line. Just enjoy it for what it is in that moment. Just live in this moment that you have that opportunity.
It's going to be awesome. Now, we got Ryan Day's press conference here in a few hours. I suspect that what we are going to hear from him going to be similar to what we heard before the Indiana game. This is going to be his call to action for atmosphere. And I can't wait to hear how he puts it, because he did a really good job for that Indiana game, coming out saying what he did, however it is he worded it, whatever he said. I can't remember exactly, but the Indiana game atmosphere was excellent for a noon game. This one got to be even better. We got to maximize the home field advantage and wear the big noon like a badge of honor is what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. We got to embrace this. It's ours. But I'm really excited to hear him talk about the atmosphere in the shoe. And obviously we've got the towels now. We got the towel getting handed out. So Scarlet out, the towel. I hope they surprise us with some Scarlet pants, but we'll see.
Look, I have some friends that live down in Texas, big UT fans, making the trip up to Columbus for this game. And, they've asked me what to expect. And, I've told them in general, what the vibes are like around there, how to act, all those kind of things. Knowing who they are, like, I feel like I'm worried that they're going to be underwhelmed. This is their first trip to the Horseshoe, and I'm worried that they're going to be underwhelmed, and there's no reason why they should. Look, Ryan Day in his last press conference, the last time we talked to him, went out of his way. This was still like 2 weeks away from the game to talk to the fan base and say, like, we're going to need you, which doesn't need to be said. But, obviously, like you said, he's kind of drumming that up. So I just really hope Ohio State fans make that place what it should be for that kind of atmosphere. To hell with the noon game stuff. I get it. It's not ideal. It's bullshit. I totally agree with all that stuff, but it is what it is. And if that place isn't rocking, and if that's not a very, very daunting atmosphere for the Texas Longhorns to go try to win a football game in, that would be disappointing. So I'm really excited and hopeful the Buckeye fans will show up and make that place a true spectacle for the Texas fans to show up, because I know some of those people who haven't been to the Horseshoe before, and they weren't here in 2005, and they talk about the fact that they missed that, and they saw it on TV, and it's like they can't believe that they didn't go to the Horseshoe and see that spectacle in 2005. And again, I understand different circumstances, but at the same time, I hope that they're not walking away disappointed in terms of the atmosphere. So I hope Buckeye fans deliver what these Texas fans think they're walking into, because that should be what they're walking into.
I feel that same kind of fear, like, for your friends, for any of them. Like, I never want them to come away with the feeling that sometimes you and I have about the stadium. Man, this is a little bit of an underwhelming environment compared to others we've been to. I don't fear it for this game. I think it's going to just be ridiculous, and I can't wait. I am curious, as we do not have an answer yet about Hartline in the booth or on the sidelines. Do you think we're going to get an answer about that today? I'm sure somebody's going to ask.
I would hope somebody would ask. I would assume there's an answer. There's no reason not to answer that question. So I would assume if somebody asks it, there will be an answer to that. At the end of the day, I've pretty much held this, viewpoint the entire time. I'll be stunned if he's not in the box. I just don't understand, how he could really maximize the job that he has to do by being on the sideline, especially for first time play call. Look, there are play callers, especially in the NFL, who get away with being a play caller down the sideline. But a lot of those times, those guys are head coaches too, so they have to be on the sideline. If in a different world where Brian Hartline's a veteran play caller, and maybe he finds a way where he can still do the job that he needs to do as a play caller down in the field, and if he wants to be down in the field with his receivers and things like that. But as a first-time play caller, I just see there's just no way you can convince me that it's better for Brian Hartline to be on the sideline than to be up in the box and be able to see all those things and react. With the instant communication that they're able to have and the instant feedback they're able to have, I just don't see the value in him being down on the sideline. I understand the value from him being there with his receivers, as he always was, and I could be totally wrong because I've never coached receivers, but I also feel like the receiver position is a place where if there's any position coach who's not going to be on the sideline with his guys, I'll take it being the receiver group. So I don't see any way where he's not up in the box, but I hope somebody asks today. It won't be me. I think they're more important. Yeah, it's interesting for sure, but I'm sure somebody will ask, and I don't see why Ryan wouldn't give an answer to that because it's not really, giving off any advantage or anything to know whether he's going to be up there or not, but he's got to be up there. I can't imagine him not being up there.
Hearing a lot about Ohio State from a national standpoint, people consistently talking about you're replacing both the offensive and the defensive coordinator. And obviously we view this as a very big thing. And I just think we view this as a really big thing in large part due to the fact that you got a new guy coming in with a new offense or a new defense. Not the case on either side of the ball for the Buckeyes. I think the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is just communication and game day operations being week one. That to me feels like the biggest concern of all this. But I feel pretty confident in Hartline. I feel really confident in Patricia in this defense.
I was actually having this conversation today with my dad about, just talking about this season and the biggest question marks. And I think the most, I don't want to say underrated because there are plenty of people talking about it, but I think one of the biggest things that will ultimately determine how Ohio State, gets off, and gets out and running this season and allows them to kind of establish some momentum is Brian Hartline and what the job that he does or doesn't do and how that looks. And like you said, if it's kind of herky jerky in this, in the start and they have to work through some things. And obviously we know the nature of the season or the schedule is they don't have the runway to work through some things. It's going to be very apparent, very early in the season if Brian Hartline and just the communications and things like that just aren't smooth and it's not going well. And I think that's a massive question. Look, at the end of the day, we don't know. You don't know if somebody can do something until they do it for the first time. We don't know what Brian Hartline is going to do or how he's going to handle this until he does it. And even then, still, we're not going to really know. It's hard to assess and evaluate the job that he's doing. Look, plenty of any fan base, pick a fan base in the history of football, whether it be college or high school or professional sports, people have problem with play calling on a given day. We know that. So it's going to be hard to assess the true job that he's doing, early on. But that's certainly among the biggest things that's going to determine how Ohio State handles this early stretch. And I think as Ohio State progresses in the season, whether it be positional inexperience or certain coaching inexperience as well, or play calling inexperience, just kind of staying afloat early on. I don't say staying afloat because, they obviously still have to go win football games, but just kind of getting through these early stretches, and there'll be some rough moments in surviving those things. And then, as Ohio State hits the midway point on, that stuff goes out the window, and now there are no excuses anymore. So I don't know how Brian Hartline is going to do with that. I think it's one of the biggest questions, one of the biggest things I'm interested in seeing. But again, I don't really know how to evaluate that other than unless it's just drastically, unless it's very apparent that it's not good. And then there's still the question as well. And I could be totally off base with this, but we all know it in the back of our heads that like Ryan Day is a very experienced play caller as well. And Ryan Day has to give Brian Hartline full reign to do this. Like if you're going to give him this job, like you have to give him full reign to do that as well. But there will also come a point in time, probably it might be hard for him in the first game. I'm not saying he will, but it might be hard for him in the first game, being that it's Texas, if things aren't going well offensively, to fight the urge to say, like, I've got to get involved here. But he can't. If Brian Hartline's not going to be comfortable being a receivers coach at Ohio State for the rest of his life, okay? So this is a very important thing for the program in general, not just that game or this season. So Ryan Day's got to give Brian Hartline full reign of that and see what happens with that and know what's going to happen moving forward from that. So I think that's a very interesting aspect of this whole season.
So that's been a big talking point on the show over the last couple of weeks, really. If things aren't going good against Texas, does Day step in? And most people want him to, Dillon. But I think you make a great point looking down the road here, looking full season, looking about confidence and letting somebody work through something. But at the same time, I mean, man, if things aren't going good and it's herky jerky or it's just not clicking, it's going to be interesting. Of course, we'll never know what happened one way or the other. I'm guessing if it looks like that and then it gets better, all of a sudden everybody's going to have their idea. It's going to be one hell of a fun talking point regardless.
I would add, I wonder how many of those Ohio State fans who say if it's not going well early in that Texas game that they want Ryan to take over. I wonder what they had to say when Ryan called the fourth down end around Mecca in South Bend 2 years ago as well. That's just again, that's the nature of play calling. We all have gripes of play calling in a given day.
Yeah. It is the number one thing everybody says when things aren't going good.
Right.
Play calling sucked for sure.
Yep.
So I wanted to go over another thing with you that I've been hearing this week as I'm leading up, and I've been watching a lot of stuff on the Texas end and reading a lot of their stuff, and just kind of going through the position groups, Ohio State versus Texas, and starting with quarterback. I would give the lean to Arch here, but not a huge lean, but it's a lean to Arch for me, just because, he threw for 900 yards last year. He's been in the system an extra year, and I don't think that there's really any debate about it. You got to give the lean to Arch here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, look, I caught some flack for the last time I was on talking about who I thought would win this game, and part of the reason why at the time I thought Texas, and I don't want to say I thought, but if I had to pick the game, I would side with Texas in a very slim margins, because not only Arch has that experience, even though it's limited, it's certainly more than Julian has, but also his legs. I mean, again, if this game is kind of herky jerky offensively for both teams, Sark has another element that he can utilize in Arch's legs, and that is truly an asset for them. So I think without a doubt you have to give Arch the edge. I'm not saying it's a big one by any means. And maybe it ends up being a big one as we see the game play out, or maybe it's not an edge at all, or maybe the edge goes to Julian. I don't know, but right now on paper, I don't know how you could not give Arch the edge there, just however slight it may be.
Exactly. And when we look at running back, you look at Baxter, you look at Wisner. Again, we've not seen much out of James Peoples and CJ Donaldson. We've not seen much of any of the new CJ Donaldson. He's a different back right now, I think, than he was at West Virginia. Just going off the West Virginia CJ Donaldson, I like the two Texas backs a lot more. But I think this is a new CJ Donaldson than we're seeing, and I think it'll be a very effective two backs for Ohio State. But I still give the lean to Texas on the running backs as well.
Yeah, it's tough. No, it's not even tough. I'm going to say bullshit. I'll call this even. If I'm close to saying Ohio State has an edge here, because I think James Peoples is going to establish himself from week one as a household name. So I think that much is James Peoples, and I think CJ Donaldson, again, it is a new CJ Donaldson. So on paper right now, I guess, I wouldn't have any problem. I wouldn't put up too much of an argument. People saying that Texas has an edge at running back, but what I firmly believe is I say to hell with that in terms of the way I think it's going to play out. I think that's an even battle, and I wouldn't be surprised if coming out of it we said that Ohio State's running back room or those two guys outplayed Texas running backs. So
wide receiver, this is not really much of an argument, right? Okay. Tight end, this is not much of an argument. Buckeyes got him with all the pass catchers. Offensive line, I think Ohio State has this here. All we've heard is nothing but concern out of Texas all camp. Obviously, they replacing four dudes. A lot of them under the impression that Ohio State replacing four dudes because they're all going back from what started the season last year and not what won the national championship. We're feeling pretty solid. I'm feeling pretty solid about this offensive line, like real solid. Are you still feeling real solid about the offensive line?
Oh, sky high, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If Ohio State's going to win this game, and certainly moving forward into the season, what we hope that Ohio State's going to accomplish, it'll start there. I think Ohio State's offensive line has a chance to be a top 5 unit in college football.
Yeah.
I think they have a chance to be that good. And what I just said about the running backs as well, like if Ohio State's going to go in this game, it'll be because they established a running game, took some pressure off of Julian, and were able to control the game there.
And we're going to get there.
And against that Texas defensive line, I think that's right there for the taking. It'll be disappointing if Ohio State doesn't control the line of scrimmage there, from an offensive line standpoint. So because I think that they're that good and they should be that good. And I think that opportunity's there. So without a doubt, advantage Ohio State there.
Okay. Defensive line, I give this nod to Texas here. They've got 2 really good pass rushers. They've got just a lot more, I think, bodies that have been somewhat more proven in the interior. they go deep. They go deeper, and I am still somewhat concerned after, K-Mac and Edric get rotated out as to what they're going to be able to do as far as stopping the Texas run when that unit's in there. So I give the nod to Texas here. But it's not as big as I think a lot of folks are making it. I really love the Ohio State starting four.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's your football game right there. Next Saturday, I think there's your football game right there. Is which one of those two groups, particularly in the interior, steps up and plays the best, and not just your top guys, but depth wise, because it's not going to be a super hot day. It's only going to be, I think, at the high is 77 right now. So it's not going to be a super hot day like it could be for August 30th and a noon game. So that helps out a little bit in terms of depth and keeping guys fresh and things like that. But I think, which one of those two groups steps up and plays the best, I think that's who wins the football game, because, by extension, that's who's going to limit the run game for the other team. And I just think that's where this game's going to be won or lost. I would still give that edge to Texas because I'm very concerned, I guess is the best way to put it, about Ohio State's depth on the interior. I think we all feel great about their starting four across the board, and about those two guys in the interior, starting how many plays they can play and at what percentage they can play those plays. Remains to be seen. We've talked about it before. I think that's one of the biggest questions this season, for Ohio State. Slight edge to Texas, maybe. I wouldn't put it as a huge edge, though. Like, they have bodies in there, but I'm not sure how good those bodies are. We're going to find out
That's just it. They're talking it up like, look, not because every person you sign in the transfer portal isn't just a win, right? Like, we've signed 5 dudes. Okay, great. You get 5 dudes.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, like, about, this offensive line for Ohio State. I mean, my goodness, they can just push people around on Saturday, and we're going to come out of this game feeling like, damn, they're going to go run the football against anybody they play against, this season. So I just feel like that opportunity is right there. And as I kind of daydream about what an Ohio State win looks like next Saturday, I just see that offensive line pushing those guys around, because they're not as good as Ohio State's offensive line. So, but again, remains to be seen. Have to go. Maybe those guys are the real. Maybe they have 4 or 5 deep. That those guys we're just waiting for bigger opportunities to play on the stage, and here it is, and they answer that bell. But I honestly have my doubts, but I'm not sure about that.
So when you look at the Ohio State offensive line, the Texas defensive line, you got a strength on strength matchup there. And then when you look at the Texas offensive line versus the Ohio State defensive line, I think that's a nod to Ohio State in that battle right there. So I think if you're looking at this in totality, Ohio State has the edge here in line play. That's the way I see this. When we look back at the Cotton Bowl, the Buckeyes didn't rush for 100 yards in that game. Do you think they're going to rush for 100 yards on Saturday?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. If you were going to set an over and under on, rushing yards and set it at 119.5, are they going to rush for 120 yards? I would pick the over. I'd say they'll run for 120 plus. Yes. I don't think they're going to run for 185, 190 yards, but I think they'll run for 120 plus. Yes, I do.
That's about where I'm feeling as well. About 120. Where you're going to get over that, you're going to do better than you did last time, but it's not going to be some bonanza.
No.
When we look at the linebackers, obviously they got a great linebacker crew, and Ant Hill is probably the best in the country right now. But the Buckeyes, I love their linebacker core. So while they do get the edge, it's not like, okay, it's a sweeping blowout here. I think both. I mean, you got your starters are both on the Butkus watch list, right, at Ohio State. Right. So sure, you can get the edge, but it's a squeaker. And then when we go to the secondary, I've got Ohio State with an edge in the secondary here. I love this Ohio State secondary. I'm thrilled about it. I think that IGB and Jermaine are going to be just like, this is one of the things. And we got 3 things we're going to come out of this. 3 takeaways Sunday.
Yep. And
I was thinking my first takeaway Sunday that I think is going to be one of my takeaways is that's the best corner combo in the country. I think they're going to be just ridiculous.
On my list of, three or four players that I expect to just absolutely break out this season and have big time years and really make names for themselves that aren't already established names across college football. Jermaine Matthews is up there. If he's not one, he's two. For me, Jermaine Matthews is primed to have a tremendous season. I just have so much confidence in him, and my confidence in him is sparked by everybody that we talk to in the Woody and his teammates and his coaches who just continuously praise him for the job he's done this offseason. Not just the job he's doing like physically on the practice field, but how serious he is. How much more mature he is this season. I just think that there's no reason to believe that Jermaine Matthews doesn't become a very, very good cornerback across all of college football, and not just within the Big Ten. And if that's the case, then Ohio State secondary. We know. Well, I think everybody feels fantastic about those safeties, obviously, and not just the safeties as well, but the guys that they have, the different bodies they have to play different things and do different things as well. In a Matt Patricia defense, where we know they're going to give them some different looks. So, without question, give me the advantage, Ohio State in the secondary as well. And look, going back to the linebacker thing, I agree. Texas might have the best linebacker in the country on the field next Saturday, but when we look back on that game in late November, don't be surprised if Ohio State maybe had one of the 2 or 3 best linebackers in the country on the field, and his name ain't Sonny Styles either. So
right. Well, yeah, we've both been there. Trumping that up for over a year now. So,
right.
All right. So now we're going to do something, guys. We're going to go things that we think Dillon and I are each going to say on Sunday morning. Essentially a prediction, but Sunday morning today. Ready? Here we go. Here's my first one that I'm going to be saying on the show on Sunday morning. I told you Julian Sayin was that dude.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to win the football game, then he better have made those some of those plays to let us know. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be saying coming out of next Saturday, is Ohio State's offensive line just bullied Texas to a win. So, I think that's probably my number one takeaway.
Okay, pause the flipping game. Hold on. Dillon, are you trying to tell us something here, buddy?
What?
Are you trying to tell us something? Because the last time we talked about this game, you said you had bet Texas. You got a lot of grief for that.
And I tell you what, those bets are still in there too. But I mean, I from then till now, I think Ohio State's going to go win the football game, and I think
you've changed your mind.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to go win the football game, and I think that offensive line is going to be the biggest reason why. I think they're going to go bully their way. Look, make no mistake about it. This game's going to be, in my opinion, a knockdown, drag them out, 20-17, 24-21 kind of game where, it could go either way. And I said that when I said I bet on Texas. So in no way, shape, or form am I going to be shocked by anything. But yes, I do think Ohio State's offensive line is going to go bully their way to winning this football game. It might not seem like they bullied them in the sense that, they just dominated the football game. But if they go run for 150 yards in that game, and give Julian enough time and keep him fresh to give him time to make his throws. I think that's what Ohio State's about to go do. So,
wow, I can't believe it. No, I was good. So you said something a little earlier, and I was like, that's interesting. That sounds like somebody would say that if they thought Ohio State was going to win. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But now I forget my Sunday headlines. I don't even care anymore. I'm very excited. So that's great news. Now I've decided that I got the Buckeyes winning a game 27-20. That's how I think this is going to go. Do you have a score for us today as well?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this because I always make one on Thursday before the game. So I was already thinking about where I'm going with this. I'm going to pick Buckeyes 23-20. When if you'd have asked me or whenever the last time we did the show, when I said that I'm betting on Texas, and if I had to pick, I would pick Texas to win. And you asked me for a score of that game, I would have picked 23-20 Texas, because I just think that's the kind of game it's going to go. So, I'll just flip flop, who's on the right side of that, and take Ohio State 23-20.
Okay. All right. So that's about it, guys. That's the show. I'm very happy to hear that. It's thrown me way off my game. But I do want to say, you get the best analysis, guys. You get the very, very best analysis from someone who is a fan like Dillon, but can also think logically enough to be able to pick against their team if they think their team's not going to win. Because then, they're always giving you 100% truthful analysis and not being a fanboy. For those who, there were some of you that came at Dillon as though he wasn't a real fan because he was picking Texas. It doesn't make you not a real fan. It makes you objective.
I will never bullshit anybody. I promise you, I will only say things because that's what I truly think. And if anybody's ever, if you've never thought that Ohio State was going to lose a football game, then I guess good for you. I find that kind of disingenuous to never, think it is disingenuous because at the end of the day, there have been games in the past where Ohio State's probably not quite as good as the other team. They might have went on and won that game or they might have lost that game. But I promise you, I'll never tell anybody anything that I don't firmly believe in. And I don't pick based on, just my heart does. But anyways, yeah. But yeah.
Now we know that Dillon really believes it. So
yeah, I do.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah. Brother, before we get out of here, I think that we have become somewhat desensitized to not just great wide receiver play at Ohio State, but Brian Hartline continually bringing in just absolute mega freaks. And I think that Chris Henry Jr. being hurt last year, kind of took him off people's minds. He dropped in the rankings. That won't last. But my gosh, dude, this guy, he's going to gain another 20 pounds probably in the next year and a half.
Yeah.
He's pushing 6'6" now. And with skills like we just saw, ball skills like that, we saw high pointing earlier on in the game. We saw that the catch, which is just that's all I need to say is the catch. We also saw a touchdown with total body control where he dove and twisted in the end zone. He's really he's that kind of dude. It's just amazing.
When you have a player in high school, and obviously Jeremiah was this way as well, who is obviously physically imposing like that, they have the ball skills, which some of that you can't really teach. That's just, and then also understanding that when they get to Ohio State and they get in Woody and they get in Nick's dojo and he gets them physically, ready to play at that level. And then also the tutelage of Brian Hartline to help them improve on the technical things and make them better route runners and make sure they can run every, route in the tree and all those things like that. But when when you see those things at the high school level already, the things they're going to show up at Ohio State with already in tow, my goodness, it's just, it's kind of beating a dead horse here. We talk about it all the time, just, this factory of elite, and I mean elite of elite receiver talent coming through Ohio State. And then there's another one. I know people across the country are, just kind of rolling their eyes you've got to be kidding me. There's another one coming, look, there's the jokes that people make about Ohio State's receiver talent's been Ohio State's receiver talent for years, but then, at times they kind of get pushed around up front. Certainly in that one football game in late November that, matters more than anything. But at the end of the day, talking about that position, it's absolutely insane the way that they just kind of roll over talent there and just start over. And that goes back to what I said, and this is a conversation that's deeper and, another day because it would take a long time. But again, Brian Hartline's not going to just be happy being a receivers coach at Ohio State for the rest of his life. So for a lot of different, purposes, people better hope that this play calling stuff goes right for Ohio State and Brian Hartline. So,
yeah. All right, Dill, I appreciate it, brother. We will obviously either hit on this again, either pregame or definitely postgame. But I can't wait, man. I will see you. Well, I'll see you down at the Woody as again, it is Tuesday morning.
Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We'll see you Tuesday, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, later, brother.
Yep. Later.